Hey everybody, welcome to Spirit Vision's Actor Panel with Jessica Matten. Jessica, thanks for joining us. I'm Darcy Waite. I'm the host of That's Awesome on APTN. Jess, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into acting?
Oh, it's always a funny thing when tell us about yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Hi everyone. Darcy and I met on the show That's Awesome last year, and it's always really nice to connect with other Indigenous brothers and sisters, and so thank you. I think, what do I do? I've been acting for the last 10 years. I'm also the co-president of Lemon-Cree, which is a fitness and wellness program that I run with my mother, and we've been doing that for 10 years as well. So when I started acting, my mom and I started this company that's all about supporting the wellness of our Indigenous people, not only in Canada, but in the States as well. And we travel to the most isolated native reserves in Canada. And our goals is to get our people healthy, back in shape internally. And we really have a solid belief that that's the way to build up our communities again. It's working internally with whatever's going on here, based on like the traumas that our families have survived. So that's what I do. And to be honest, acting is a hard world. It is, I'm not gonna lie. And for the many times that I thought I was gonna give up and quit, it's the driving force behind everything I do was about trying to uplift our people and trying to help set an example by just doing well, trying to set an example of what could be. So did I answer all your questions?
I mean, I have a lot more. You've answered half of them, and no, I'm kidding. That's amazing, because I know you got started in a different way. Like I remember you talked when we were on That's Awesome. You went over to Sweden and then did worked in an advertising company, and then you came back. Like, can you talk about how you the training that you started to do to get into acting?
Yeah, so the long version of it is I was never interested in becoming an actor. I had a profound appreciation for cinema, especially the old classics, the Katharine Hepburn, the Spencer Tracy era, because of the films that my mother showed me growing up. But I never thought it was a career that I would choose just because I always thought I would end up in the business world. So I worked at an advertising firm, two of them in London, England, when I was 21. I also worked in fashion magazines, Elle-UK fashion magazine, when I was in England as well. I was in the middle of a science degree at the University of Alberta when I took off to England. And I just I need a change of pace of life. And I really believed at that point I would work in advertising or in the fashion industry as someone in the background anyways. And so I thought I needed to get experience over there. I went to Central St. Martin's and London College of Fashion at night as well. And while I was doing that, I was also still working for a land development company too. So yeah, a lot of different jobs. And then when I was finishing my degree, I was planning to go to New York, and the recession of 09-08 hit. And I just went, oh, wow. Clearly they're not going to hire a Canadian. So what are my other options? And I was raised a lot around areas of Vancouver and BC. And I spent a lot of time on Tsawwassen First Nations and Tsleil-Waututh Nation out there. So it was my other home, and it always has been. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to go back there. What's the main industry out there? Google. What is the main industry? Film. Oh, and it literally, I just Googled how to become an actor. And I had no clue. I'd never gotten any kind of acting training in my life. And I just followed the steps, get your headshots, submit to agencies. And I was very fortunate that I had about 8 meetings, and 7 out of 8 wanted to take me on. But then I would treat it like a job interview, and they're like, well, lovely to meet you, Jessica. We really want to rep you. Wait, hold on. Your resume says that you have 0 acting training. And I was like, yeah. Just so ignorant and, naive about it. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to start you off in commercials then, because you have an interesting look. meaning there were not a lot of Native actors or actresses at the time. So they didn't really know what to do with me. And they were like, oh, she could pass as Spanish or Hawaiian or
Yeah, all those ones. Yeah.
oh, whatever, you know, and I was like, okay, sure, why not? And I booked 2 commercials off the bat, and they got really arrogant, the agents, and they're like, she's ready for the big leagues. But my first audition as a waitress, I only had 1 line, and I bombed it so hard that I was like crying when I left. And I was like, oh my God, I suck. That was so embarrassing. I never want to do this again. But instead of backing out of it and letting the fear get the best of me, I'm very much like this. Once I fail, then I get very stubborn about, no. I'm going to prove to myself that I could do this. So then I started taking acting lessons, and it was just kind of a snowball thing from there that really taught me the technical aspects of how to actually be a convincing actor.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Like, you've talked so much. Like, I had the same, like, how I got into acting. I didn't know I wanted to be an actor. Like, I was like 19, I think. And I was like, it was just kind of one of these things that I was like, I want to try it. And I Googled the same thing.
Oh, did you?
Like, the exact same. And I found like an little class, like acting classes, and because we're from Edmonton too. So it was like acting classes in Edmonton. And yeah, like almost the same experience, right? You go in, like, I started acting, and then like within 4 months I was on the set of Blackstone, and then I had this big, like, you know, little mini ego, and then I got cut down a couple pegs, and then I was like, I really need to take, like, then I went back to acting classes and really focused on the craft and learned how to do it. But you said something really interesting, is the big move. Like, you know, for me, I moved to Winnipeg, but even that move from Winnipeg to the big cities seems pretty daunting. Like, how did you go about that?
Well, I wasn't raised on a res. My mom was from the north end of Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
Half of her family's in Peguis First Nation and Turtle Mountain, North Dakota. So we're like spread everywhere. But my mom had me in Edmonton, Alberta. So I was just kind of used to somewhat of a big city. Mm-hmm. Edmonton, I wouldn't really know if you would call big, but I just always, my mom had me traveling at a very young age. We represented Canada as a native drum group in Korea, actually, when I was only 7 years old. Yeah, so I've been traveling to Asia and stuff since I was very young. And I think that the beauty of traveling at such a young age is it takes away the fear of other cultures and other people, and exploring the world on your own. So I'm extremely grateful for that, because it made it very easy for me to transition from city to city within Canada. And also because my mom moved us so much too. You know, by the age of 21, I had already lived in like 26 different homes. So yeah, so moving was totally, it was never intimidating to me. I don't know if I was answering your question, but I'm baffled by, I forget how similar our journeys were, because my first big role was on Blackstone as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I actually purposely put that on a vision board, and I photoshopped my own IMDb credits, because I was like, I'd known people like Glenn Gould since I was 10 years old, and, you know, Ray Thunderchild since I was a baby too. So for me, there was a lot of comfort of if I could be on a set like Blackstone. And plus I just could not believe that there was a show where it was like a lot of Native people for once. And I got so excited about that. So, but that's so cool that we both Googled it, and Blackstone was like our breakout.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it's funny even because it's even common. Like, I even had like a vision board when I was, you know, first starting out, right? Like, I had all the things that I wanted, and one of them was like, I didn't know I wanted to be, I was going to be a host, but I was like, you know, do a lead on a series, and do like a little small roles on shows and stuff like that. So it's funny that you do the vision board, because I did that. I still do it, but to get to have goals and stuff,
I highly believe in that. And I really push that onto anyone. And it's not just for acting, it's for any career. I didn't even know I was vision boarding technically even way back in elementary school, when my mom would say to my brother and I want you to write down the grades you want for each course, for science, for gym, for math. Write down the grade that you want to achieve at the end of the semester. And we would do that, and we would post it next to our desk. And it was a way of manifesting even our grades. And just having the visual of it right beside us while we studied and worked hard, It's funny how that happens. And I created this whole nerdy vision board in my 20s too. I remember going to the dollar store and getting a hot pink board, and I literally mapped out everything that I wanted to happen, and the chronological order. And the creepiest thing, Darcy, is that that's all still happening.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's still it's a long journey. Look, I didn't achieve half of that stuff on that vision board, and it's 10 years in, but I mean, it's happening chronologically how I planned it. So there is a lot of power in manifestations, even if you think it's like too hippy dippy, new agey, whatever. You know, that's totally cool, but just from experience and from yours too, it sounds like it works.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I remember shooting in Montreal, and then I came back and I forgot to look at my vision board, and then I like just crossed out, like, you know, like you said, half of it. I mean, I started a new one because you know, your goals are keep adding to the goals and stuff. But it's funny to look at it and see, like, as you work towards it, just being able to cross those out and seeing like from where you started.
And the satisfaction you get from crossing that one, right? It's like,
I did it, right? You remember when you put it on there, you're like, oh, this is so crazy. It's so out there. And then you go like that, and you're like, that wasn't so crazy. It happened. It's an amazing thing.
And then the amazing feeling is having that moment of pure gratitude of like, wow, I really did it. Like, look at this journey. Look at the obstacles I had to overcome, but I did it. Wow. Thank you. You know, like that's what I always do too. And I get really giddy and giggly about it because it's really cool.
It's an amazing, like the visualization, all that fun stuff. Let's jump into kind of auditions. I know it's kind of like how actors get their foot in the door. And kind of how does that process go for you?
It's interesting, like we had to reschedule this because all of a sudden auditions are coming in. I just did a self-tape yesterday, and to be honest, it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned lead on a show. I still had a moment where I'm like, geez, I'm rusty. I haven't done this.
The alarm's about to go off. I gotta run, reset it, and then come back. Oh, you're sorry. It's gonna go off.
So Cynthia, it's just you and I. Or not, because I can't see your face.
No, it's good. I was like trying to like wave you down, and I heard it beep, beep, beep. It's still recording. I was like trying to wave at the at her, like, Cynthia, and I was like, it's gonna go off, and then I heard it go beep, beep, beep. So it was about, sorry.
No,
to catch you off there.
I talked to Cynthia, but I don't know if she's there. So I was like, it's just you and I, Cynthia. No response, and I'm like,
It's all good. So sorry to cut you. I cut you off during auditions.
Yeah, I was just saying, I had, you know, one of my first self-tapes in a while since this whole pandemic, and it's a muscle. So it doesn't matter if you're a series regular on the show or you have 10 years like me behind you. I have these moments where I'm like, geez, do I remember how to act? I don't want to tell producers that, but I, you know, every actor goes through that, and that's the truth and the reality. And, you know, my biggest thing is always being honest about the process and what it is like to actually be an actor. And my process has been pretty diligent since I was trained. So I studied for a good hard 3 to 4 years with part-time night classes and part-time scene study classes. And the core things that I learned, I always have to refresh myself and go back to those when I really, really want to do a good job on an audition. Not saying I don't try to do a good job on all my auditions, but, you know, when you really want to go the extra mile, it's just kind of like a reminder. The process itself is memorizing is the least of your concerns in a lot of ways. That's just for every actor, even experienced veterans. Memorizing the lines is like the most annoying part. It's like cramming for a final exam. There's no other way around it. If you want to be sloppy and not be word perfect, that's fine. If you have the ability to do that and still deliver an amazing performance, that's incredible. I'm not one of those people. I need to like memorize it for like a good 4 to 6 hours. And I take a long time. And it's only when I'm working on set, and I have been for a few weeks, does my muscle memory get a lot better. And then I can learn 5 pages in, you know, an hour. But Yeah, but that doesn't happen unless it's super consistent. But overall, even for like a 2 scenes, it'll take me a good 6 to 8 hours. So the life of an actor is literally cram studying all the time on the drop of a hat, like an on-call nurse. Not to compare an actor to a nurse at all, like much respect to nurses. But in terms of the availability, yeah, I gotta drop birthday parties of loved ones. It's constantly a battle of deciding, can you do something with a friend or do you have to stay home and study? So the audition process is not glamorous, but what you do get from it is a deep satisfaction when you know you've given it your all and you've been able to tell a very truthful little moment in time based on what someone has created.
That's an amazing, yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny getting into acting and auditioning and stuff like that, because I didn't like studying in school, and now it's like I find acting and hosting, it's like there's so much studying involved. Like, you know, like if for each episode of That's Awesome, it was like 10 hours. I knew it would take me 10 hours to memorize the script.
Yeah, because yours was scripted too, and I remember, you know, observing you on set too, and like there's no downtime. Like you're just studying for the next scene. So
Yeah.
and that was interesting for me to observe because I've never hosted a show, and I just assumed a lot of it was like ad-libbed or improvised. I thought there was like a structure, but I didn't know it was like verbatim, like acting.
Pretty,
Really?
like the first season was a little bit more improv-y, and then this season it got a little bit more rigid. But then it was kind of a cool process because we went through another director, and it's funny to work with different directors. Some directors like it where I can go off script and go like, you know, do what I do, and then some are like, you stay with the lines, but then there's a lot of freedom within the lines to be like, do what I do, right? So it's
Cool.
it was you know, it's funny because like you said, like for that audition, it's I remember like you like said it, like I had to like night and day, like I was just like studying all the time because it was like the first show I was like, I want this show, like this is, so I was really, you know, fortunate to be able to.
And that's the thing too, going back to the audition process. Yes, you will get an amazing lead on a show, an audition, but you'll have like 2 days to prep it. I remember one time an agent um, on a Sunday Super Bowl night called me and she was like, Jess. And I'm like, if I get a call from my agent on a Sunday, I know it's not that great. I don't know. I'm just like, something has
Yeah.
a deadline. She's like, Jess, I'm really sorry. It's 6 p.m. at night. It just came in, but I got you a lead to audition opposite for a show with Wesley Snipes. And I was like, when is it due? She's like, 10 a.m. tomorrow in the room. I was like, what? And it was, I kid you not, it was 12 pages. And it was all that scientific lab jargon.
Oh, that's
Like, yeah, so like you, not only is it hard to memorize the lines, but you're speaking a language, a different kind of vocabulary that you not necessarily would ever speak like in real life.
Mhm.
And so, but I kind of had like a bit of like, oh my God, I don't think I could do this. But then all I did was I reminded myself, and this is something that any actor has to take away. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. You got to know that you are competing with the best of the best. Even if you don't believe that, you are. So, and you see it happen all the time where like no names become A-listers. Does it happen very often? Not at all, but it does happen. So my mentality is like, okay, what would Benedict Cumberbatch do in this situation?
Mhm.
He would memorize this, damn it. Straight up. So my excuse is I have no excuse. It's how bad, it's constantly like in any career choice, how bad do you really want it?
Mhm.
And that's all internal. It's all the work is within you. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It's not about comparing yourself. It's not about ever doing anything negative to any other person to sabotage. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I never have. But it's all about how bad do you want it? Because someone is willing to do the work. And that's something as actors or whether you're in advertising or even the top surgeons in the world are always conscious of.
Mhm. No, it's amazing. That's, yeah, especially like great saying, like how bad do you want it, right? Like, you know, because like you said, you're always like, we're not competing against like people in our city, we're competing against people in like other cities. And like when I was in film school, I had a great coach who was like, okay, you're competing with people in this room, but you're not just competing against people in this room in I went to Red River College. He's like, you're competing against the kids in Juilliard, the National Film or Theater School, in like these like high caliber things, and you're still getting the same education. It's just, it's they're not better than you. You just, how bad do you want it? And 4 years down the road, the work's starting to pay off, and it's, but it's like, again, like even this weekend, I was just like 2 auditions and just, I had to like say no to a bunch of stuff. Right. So it's just the life of an actor, I guess. Yeah.
It totally is. And you're so right about, we are competing with the people of Juilliard. Now, one of my, I used to be with a management firm, and their roster had astounding actors from Juilliard. And I knew one of them, and I was working a lot more than him. And I couldn't afford a Juilliard, scholarship. I couldn't afford to pay that, so it just shows that doing the best to your ability, and just remembering that you are competing against the world. So it's not an individual, it's just like you're competing against people who can afford a higher level of education than you. But if anything, I'm a great example of someone who, it just shows you, if you want it bad enough, you can achieve anything you want, anything. You don't need a fancy education. You throw yourself in the mud, and you learn through trial and error. And the concept of failure, I think this is an amazing thing to always bring up, is we have to stop looking at failure as a negative thing. Mm-hmm. We have to stop looking at failure as a form of saying to ourselves, we suck. Failure, if anything, should be a great reason why we get up the next day and we try again. Because every time you fail, you really do learn something else. It's simple as, oh, did you forget a line in the audition room and make a fool of yourself? Well, that's okay, because you won't do that the next time. Trust me, you'll be so traumatized from screwing up the first time that you will learn coping mechanisms and techniques that work for yourself to make sure that you don't do that again, if you want it bad enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been there. I've screwed up so many times in audition rooms. Like, I remember this one time, I think my agent gave me the wrong sides.
Uh-huh.
And so you go in there like, I'm going to be reading for this person. They're like, oh, you're supposed to be reading for this person. You're just like, oh, snap. And then you figure it out, right? You just get through it, right? It's traumatizing, and you want to go hide in a hole for a little while, but you get through it, right? Like,
And the other thing is, I have a lot of casting directors, even in LA, who are friends, and they want you to win. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't have chosen you as the top 20 to bring in out of the thousands and thousands submissions from the West Coast to East Coast of Canada. They wouldn't have picked you if they didn't have faith that you could really book this. They want you to win, because casting directors are hired too. Casting directors are hired by the producers of the show. So they need to look good. They want you to do an amazing job, because you make them look good, and you prevent them from getting fired by the producers for not doing their job. So that's another thing. It's like, we have to treat casting directors as our allies as well, and our business partners and our friends. And a lot will become friends if you allow it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's jump onto. Okay. So now we've booked the role we just done. How do you prepare for set? And what's your advice for someone who's going to be on set for the first time?
So set is something else. There's a thing called a call sheet that no one taught me about in acting class, because acting is about learning how to act. It's not about the business side of it. Very much like how I wish people taught us about taxes in high school. It's the same thing. So a call sheet, you will be given a number of where your character is. So if you're like number 1 on the call sheet, number 2. So let's say, for example, the show I work on for APTN Tribal, I'm number 1 on the call sheet. So the first step is, I want to look at my dailies. So meaning, I want to see my schedule and what days I'm shooting, so that I could begin to mentally prepare about how to time manage all the stuff I need to memorize. So what I would do is, I would look for number 1 on the call sheet and look through all. So what happens is, for people that don't know, A production will give you a preliminary schedule of what scenes you're shooting and in what order and on what dates. So what I will do is literally highlight my number and the dates, and I will start to take out those scenes from the script, and everything gets a little messy here. So I will take the scenes out, and things are never shot chronologically. So I will be grabbing a scene from episode 6, scene number 24. And that will be the first thing I ever shoot for the entire season. So what I'll do is I'll take that scene out. I will highlight a box around all of my dialogue, and I will then put a sticky tab note on it with the scene number, and I will lay it out. I should actually show it to you on my phone if I could find it, but that's what I do. So I start to pick apart and go through the entire dailies of the schedule of how we're shooting, and then line up all of my scripts so that they match that.
Okay.
As the scenes are going to be the priority, right? It's going to be the first chunk that you're going to have to learn properly. So I don't read the scripts first if I don't have time. I'll just rip out all the scenes first, and then I'll go back on my computer when I have downtime to fully read every single episode. And as you know, each episode is usually 50 pages long if it's a 1 hour episodic. So you think about like 8 episodes times 60 pages. That's a lot to read too, right there. So this is what I mean. It's like, it's being a good student. That's the job of an actor. So that's the first step that I would do. Once I've broken down all of the scenes and I put them in order in a binder of how I have to shoot it, then my process begins after I've read the scripts. Then I'll start memorizing every single scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Sorry?
How do you do it?
With That's Awesome, it was I'd walk around with the whole script in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to, because what happened with That's Awesome, it was so everything was changing so fast. Like they'll be like, okay, we're gonna do this scene right now. Are you ready? And I'd be like, yeah, I have to. Like, let's just do it. Like I look at the page and I'd have it ready to go. I think like on a bigger show like Tribal, I'd probably have to do your technique to do it. Actually, it's the first time I've ever heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah, because we were doing a thing called block shooting. So for people that don't know what that means that we wouldn't typically like Burden of Truth, what that show does is they'll shoot one episode per week, or they shoot one episode every 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to memorize one episode, and you don't have to stress out. As long as you memorize all of your scenes for episode 1, you're good. When you block shoot, like how we do on Tribal, we could be filming a scene on day 1 from episode 8. And then in the same day, episode 3, episode 4, episode 5, 1, 2, in that order. And because we're on a very tight schedule, I'm shooting about 10 scenes a day. A full max amount, as you know, is about 5 to 6. So I'm doing overtime and double it. So, and I also color code my tabs so I know emotionally where the character is at that point. So I need a guide to remember, because your job as an actor is to also have an emotional arc, right? You want to make sure, especially not only in a scene, but in the whole storyline of an episode, that your character is able to go somewhere. So that's how I use it, as kind of like cliff notes to jog my memory about, oh, so green means she's midway. Pink means she's really upset and she's frustrated and she's pissed off. So that's what I do. Green represents the beginning, when she's green and doesn't know better and she's innocent. So that's how my mind works. And that was my way of really crafting out a way to categorize and organize all the dialogue I have to learn.
That's amazing. That's it's funny because it's similar to like That's Awesome. How you like, because even like as you're hosting, you're putting new energies and like, hey, this is how this is gonna, like, keeping the continuity of all that. That's really, really cool.
I kept looking down because I was trying to find a video to show you guys, because my parents, I talked about my parents like 5 times a week, and they were getting really mad at me when I shoot because I'm not responding to them. And I'm like, guys, look how much I memorized in 1 week.
That's crazy.
So you see, so you could see the color tabs.
Yeah.
Look how thick that is.
That's crazy.
That's 1 week, Darcy. I'm in every single scene.
That looks like a university syllabus, like of
Yeah.
kids have learned.
Yeah, and it's amazing what sheer fear and terror will do when you know you're under contract and it legally is your job to memorize all that.
Yeah,
So if you ever have a moment where you feel lazy, that'll snap you out of it very quickly. You'll be like, okay, I got 10 minutes to relax. Let's go.
yeah. It's the first time you ever do that, where you're like, I should have memorized a little bit more. That will stop right away, right after that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's definitely, it's my first time being a full lead of a show. I've been a series regular on other shows. But, speaking to other friends who've been leads, I understood that it's an entire different ball game of responsibilities. It's your responsibility to set the tone of an entire set, to make sure that every cast member that comes in feels super welcome, that the crew feels very respected and welcome. There's like 100 to 200 crew members that we work with. I'm always diligent and try my best to remember all of their names, get to have some interaction with them one-on-one, because I just want everyone to feel included, and that even though I'm in front of the screen, it's not about me. This is about the producer and the writer's story. And I'm just like a part of telling that, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. So I always, the responsibility of being a lead is a lot more than just memorizing lines. It's about being a real team player. And if shit hits the fan, it's your job in the lot. Oh, can I say that? Oops. It's your job to maintain chillness on set and be like, to be a leader in a lot of ways, and just kind of reassure everyone that you got this. So I don't believe in any of that diva nonsense. That behavior is just, not only is it unacceptable, it's just a waste of time. Like I'm very efficient with my time. I value my time. I value other people's time. And my biggest thing is like, I want to do this scene in as few takes as possible so we can move on, do the next one, check the gate, go home. So I got 4 hours to study and do this all over again.
Next day.
I love my job.
Exactly. That memorization, like with them, that's awesome. Like we generally only got 3 takes before we had to move on.
Yeah.
And, it's like that for every show, right? You 3 or 4 takes maybe, and you got to move on to the next setup. Like it's very, the memorization. So let's get to the fun question. What's your favorite set experience or your set memory?
Oh, that's such a good one. I would have to say, and as cheesy as it sounds, I'm glad you'll never hear this because you'd be like, what do you mean cheesy? But shooting with Jason Momoa was always super fun. Him and I became brothers and sister. But we were always just goofy together, but we were serious about our work. And my funnest scene was having the opportunity to do an entire combat scene with him. So we had very little time to prepare that in advance, but we worked with stunt coordinators the weekend before. We tore apart the studio kitchen, and it was just all these stunt dudes, Jason and I, just rehearsing a scene that we were going to do in this pub in the 1800s. And for that to come to fruition, and the action roles is something I've always gravitated towards, even as a kid. Like I just love seeing powerful women kicking ass. So to be able to see that come alive and to do that with him, it was so fun. Because you know what it reminded me of? When we were kids, playing with your neighbors in the front yard with guns and just beating the hell out of each other. I was like, and I was having this moment where I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting paid to do this with Jason. This is so cool. Or like, when kids are picking on you on the res too. And I'm like, I don't want to fight. Boom. Same thing. So I was like, I'm getting paid to do it this time. So it's illegal. That was one of my favorite moments. And of course, my other favorite moments is having the countless opportunities to have very emotional scenes where there was a lot of truth, and where how you had planned it to go turned out to be something completely different and more honest and truthful. I think as an actor, that's what we all strive for. That's the high that us actors get. And I think that's kind of the addictive quality that keeps us in this industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. As a comedian, I think my funnest thing is when I crack people up. Is
Yeah, you're good at that.
like when you see someone, I don't know why, but like if I see someone start to crack a smile, it's like gates get opened, and then I'm like, I have to crack this person up in this tape. Like it's just, I don't know why, it's a mean thing, but you're like, I have to make this person laugh. Like I don't know, and it's my favorite thing to do on set.
I love that. Laughter's infectious. I can't tell you how many people's laughs make me laugh too, because I'm like, their chuckles and giggles are just funny, and it's amazing that you have the talent to do that, because I've seen you work, and there's a difference where I'm just goofy and I think I'm funny, but I'm not funny to anyone except my mom. But like, you genuinely are funny, and that is a skill in itself. To be that quick-witted as well, and to think on your toes, and to be able to improvise, and to really pay attention to what you're receiving and respond back to it tenfold. That's cool.
Oh, thank you. No, it was really fun working with you on that. It's awesome. Like I think, I remember, what was it? I was dressed up as like Mickey or something like that, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh, and I don't think I could have, like, I've never done that before, and I don't think I could have went there without like you and the youth, and kind of how we're all vibing together. So I was like, I was honestly one of my favorite.
Me too. And it was just such a pleasure to meet you. And, I get excited when I find, more Indigenous people in the industry doing their thing. And, I'm so grateful to a network like APTN being so supportive of us and giving us a platform, because no matter how much of this, movement for diversity exists in Hollywood, it still doesn't, in a way, because we're such a small population. So I feel like without APTN, well, how visible are we really, if you think about it?
Yeah.
Without being the token something. One thing APTN affords us is we don't have to be the token anything. We just are. And that's super special about the network.
I love APTN. They gave me my first shot, and so I'll ever be thankful to them. But thank you so much. I know we kept you a little bit longer than I was planning, but
oh my goodness, I didn't know time went over like that. Hey, that's fine.
Yeah, but thank you so much for your time, and it was great discussion. And best of luck to the future and all your projects.
Yes, thank you, Darcy. You as well, Cynthia, and to anyone watching this, I'm wishing you super well during this time.
All right, see ya.
Bye. Have a good one.